year number 18. Should be right there by my place. Okay, you guys had a new handout this morning that is number 60, and so that is the practice quiz that I had promised you. So here in just a moment, I'm going to take the questions that you had from your book assignment that you couldn't figure out, but I know some of you probably don't have any questions, so you can just move on to this. So for this practice quiz, I just want to make sure that I'm clear about what's fair game and what's not fair game, because I don't want you to set yourself up to misprepare for your quiz next class. So questions 1 and 2 you should certainly do without your notes. We expect you to know when to use the law of sines and when to use the law of cosines. But questions 3 through 6 are law of sines and law of cosines kind of mixed up. I think 2 of them use law of sines and 2 of them you should use law of cosines, so you got to figure out which one's which. But again, I will provide the formulas for you on your quiz. I'll have them printed off. So it's certainly fine to look at your notes for questions 3, 4, 5, and 6, but don't look at your notes for questions 1 or 2. Then questions 7 and 8 are each of the 2 new area formulas we talked about. Same thing, the area formulas will be provided for you, so feel free to look at your notes for those. And then a couple sample word problems. So if you don't have any book questions, then please go ahead and move on to that. I do not have an answer key for that on the website yet, so I will get that up this period, but I want to first take any book questions that y'all had to finish up that. Anything that was holding you back in the book time is going to hold you back on the practice quiz. So. Okay, so please get out your homework questions from the book assignment if you have any, and then tell me which ones you got. No book questions? Yeah.
48 on page 406.
406. Okay. Let's see if I get this one. Okay, so on the law of science part of the book assignment, question 48 was a word question. And I haven't worked this one this year, but I suspect we're going to be trying to find an angle or one of these side lengths. So they give us this diagram, they give us this bearing here, but they put it in the picture for us, so then that's not an issue. Over here it looks like they may have given a couple bearings, 21 degrees and 74 degrees. Okay, find the distance from the gazebo to the dock. So we are trying to find this side. Okay, so I mean I have a little bit of a hint that law of sines is probably going to help because that's what's new in this section. So I know if I'm trying to find this side length with law of sines, I need to pair it up with the sine of its opposite angle. So if this whole thing is 74 and this much of it is 28, then this much of it must be 74 minus 28. Okay, and then for law of sines, we need to pair that up with another side length that we know. So probably the 100. And he has to be put over the sine of his opposite angle. So if I can figure out this angle down here at the dock, then I can solve and get the answer that they're wanting. Okay, so I'm gonna guess, since I need more angle information, you know, my first thing I would probably lean towards is trying to think about 3 angles of a triangle adding up to 180, but that doesn't seem like I've got that information. So then it must be something with these bearings, especially since they're giving me that information. So I think similar to question 47, this one, we probably need to use these parallel lines. North line is always going to be parallel to a north line. So all those angle relationships that you learned in geometry, you know, the one that I always look for, I just picked this one just for consistency, but alternate interior. So the interior means I need to be looking inside the 2 parallel lines. And then to alternate, like if I look at this transversal, this angle is on the bottom left of the transversal, so he's going to alternate with the top right of the transversal, and they're both in the interior because they're inside the 2 parallel lines. And the nice thing about them being parallel is that if this is 74, that should be 74 as well. So that allows me to say, all right, well, half of these, or these 3 make up half of a circle. So I could find that angle at the gazebo from 180 minus 74 minus 41. And now I have 2 of 3 angles of a triangle. So 180 minus this 46 minus this 65 gives me this angle is 69. And that was really the last piece of the puzzle that I needed. X, the distance they're asking us to find, will be 100 sine of 46 degrees over the sine of 69 degrees. So it should just be a matter of plugging that in, making sure that the answer seems realistic. If it doesn't, you might check some parentheses. You might check to make sure that you're actually in degree mode. Since this is degrees and this is degrees, your calculator needs to be degree mode. But it looks like it's about 77 meters. That's what I would expect it to be. Now again, I know this came up a couple times first semester and doesn't come up a lot, but this highlighted part is probably the hardest part of the question, only because you don't get to practice it as much. So it's not something that I would try to do on every single question, but if you know you need more angles and you can't figure out something else, you need to think about the parallel lines, make one of these be a transversal, and then if you don't want to use alternate interior angles, that's fine, but you need to use one of those angle relationships so that you could get something else. I took this 74 and used that to know that this would be 74 too. And then just like on your practice quiz, anytime that you have to do that, I don't know if that is on the practice quiz or not, but if the angles are supposed to be the same size, and obviously they should look the same as well. You know, it's kind of hard to eyeball it, but if you think some angle on a quiz is 74, and then you think some other angle is also 74, but they don't look the same size, that might be a red flag that you're not using that correctly. Okay, was there anything else about 48? I think that was it for the first part. I think y'all asked pretty much everything else. But the second half, what about the law of cosines questions? I know there was only a couple of those in the book assignment, but... Okay, so like we did last semester, I will open this up in Google Classroom if you want to turn these in early. Otherwise, make sure that you have them completed and ready to turn in before we start the quiz on Monday. But go ahead and move over to the practice quiz. So again, don't use your notes on questions 1 or 2, but you are welcome to use the formulas for everything else. This should give you an indication of what else you may need to look back over before the quiz. And again, I need just a couple minutes here to get an answer key together, because this is a slightly different worksheet than we had done in the past. There's also a good, much longer practice review if you feel like you need extra practice. That's on my website. Completely optional, but if you know you need extra practice, it is there. I'll go to the bathroom. Yeah, put your name on the board and take a pass. I just uploaded the answer key to your practice quiz onto the website, so you guys are welcome to start checking your answers to that at any point. And I'll probably start bugging you for some questions here in about 15 minutes. I do have those opened up in Google Classroom, so if you do finish early and you want to go ahead and turn them in so you don't have to worry about it on Monday, again, that is just an option for you. You're still welcome to hand them in at the very beginning of class on Monday, before we start the quiz, and you still get full points. Okay, so that wasn't quite 15 minutes, but maybe enough time for you guys to see that there's a couple that you know you need help with. So anything from the front page that you don't know how to do, or your answer's not matching up with the answer key.
Can you do number 4?
Number 4. Just one sec. Okay, so first thing I noticed about question 4 is the information given to me. They give me a side length and another side length and another side length. So I know side, side, side is going to be law of cosines. And they're asking me to find angle A and angle B. So if you go to your formula sheet, which right for today that's going to be on your notes, on the quiz it'll be at the top of the front page. So but you should look up and see that cosine of A, and you have to double check this because I'm going off of memory here. B squared plus C squared minus A squared over 2BC, I think. Okay. So you can plug in those links over here and get a number, but just be careful, that's not your angle, that's what the cosine of your angle is. In fact, it may be a good idea to just go ahead and say, hey, I'm going to need inverse cosine of all of this stuff. And then we need to be careful that we put this in the calculator correctly. And as I said, this is what can cause you some issues. You know, you don't have to be bothered to memorize the formula. You have to know when to use each of them. But if you don't put this in the calculator in a very specific way, it's going to throw out a different number. So first off, you certainly need to be in degree mode. And radian mode is great for radians, but we're just doing stuff in degrees right now. Secondly, so if I try to write out what I had there, was this question 4? Okay. So I believe the formula was, if I'm trying to find angle A, it should be B squared plus C squared minus A squared over 2 times B times C. Does that sound right? Okay. Now, you can do that, and sometimes your calculator is going to throw out a number at you, but that number is not going to be correct. So the fact that it's giving an error is actually kind of nice here. And I get why you guys want to type it in this way, because this is maybe how it looks on your paper, but this is not what you mean to ask your calculator. Your calculator does order of operations exactly the way you're asking it to. So order of operations is going to do all these squaring first, but then it's going to do this division, just negative 25 divided by 2, and then it's going to go back and do some adding, subtracting. I'll do the multiplying first, but it's not doing it in the order that you intend for it to do. So this is where I was trying to emphasize last time. You can either do alpha y equals to make it type it in as a fraction, and then there's the it will automatically put in the parentheses for you. Otherwise, you need to put parentheses around your numerator and your denominator. In mathematics, when we write a big fraction, it's implied that we have those parentheses. We're going to do all the numerator stuff first, do all the denominator stuff next, and then divide them. And if you don't put that in parentheses, if you don't ask your calculator to do it in the way that you intend to do it, then it's going to throw out a different number for you. So there's angle A. And then angle B is going to be very, very similar, just the numbers are going to be in a slightly different spot. So to find angle B, it should be A squared plus C squared minus B squared all over 2 times A times C. A times C. Okay, so I'm living a little bit dangerous here by not writing it out first, but I'm also flipping back and forth between different screens. So I think I updated the numbers that would match up for angle B, and that's where the 100.953 came from. So 99% chance if you're missing this, it's because you are not putting it in the calculator correctly, but that is part of what you need to know how to do. Either use the parentheses around the numerator and denominator, like I mentioned last class. Even if you don't need the parentheses, it never hurts to put them in. 2 divided by 4, you don't need parentheses around your numerator, around your denominator, but it doesn't hurt to do it. And in cases like this, it is wrong if you don't do that. Or you can do alpha y equals, and if you pick this option number 1, you can type it in this way, and the calculator assumes parentheses around the numerator, parentheses around the denominator, so that should work too. Okay, anything else about that one? Anybody else that needed to ask about number 4? Okay, so if you had an issue using law of cosines like that, then chances are that's probably what your fix needs to be on the others, so you may retry those before you ask something else. But does anyone else have anything else that you know you need to ask about? Any other questions that are ready to go? Okay, then I will come back in about 10 minutes and see if you found anything else.
You're just kind of unproportional.
Yeah, it's not drawn to scale.
Yeah, okay.
But if you think two angles are the same size and they look wildly different, then I would
I mean,
double
one
check your
looks
work.
smaller than the other, but it wouldn't make sense for it to be anything else.
Okay. Yep.
Do we get like all these equations too?
Yes, I'll also provide the area formulas.
Or like
You just need to know. Yep. You don't have to memorize anything.
Good.
Now, to be 100% sure you get it right on the ACT, you might want to memorize them. But the questions that I've seen on the ACT about this topic usually is like, which one of these would you use to find this?
Oh, yeah.
And it just has numbers plugged in, so you like don't even have to get out your calculator. You just kind of have to recognize which one makes sense. Does anybody know if there's any ACTs coming up soon?
There's more in February.
Now, obviously I don't have like any insider info here, but I was having a talk with Ms. Thomas, the other pre-cal teacher, and this is a very common ACT topic, but somehow it seems like it doesn't just happen to show up in fall semester. So I don't know if they realize that a lot of schools don't do it until later in the year, and so then they put it later, like in spring ACTs, but it is very common. But I feel like if you had seen it before, you would have recognized that it was some sort of trait that you hadn't learned yet. So again, that's just a complete wild guess on my part, but I would not be surprised if you saw one in February. It's been 10 minutes since I last took questions, so any others that I can help with? Okay, it seems like you guys are getting pretty low on questions, but you still have 30 minutes of class. So if you do find something, feel free to call it out or bring it up here to me or call me over to your desk, whatever is more convenient for you. I can accommodate, but use this as a baseline to get an idea of what you need to quickly scan over before the quiz. And again, the quiz will be next class at the start. So I know you haven't had to worry about this kind of stuff in a while, but Monday morning, 7:15, math quiz is not going to be the first thing you think about over the course of the weekend. So please write it down somewhere, give yourself some sort of a reminder. I'm certainly not trying to catch you off guard, but that will be the plan for Monday. We'll do that. And then we'll start looking at a little bit of the limit stuff, which will be the next unit, and we'll spend a few weeks on that one. And then again, just a reminder, if you want to turn it in early, that is open in Google Classroom. And if you feel like you need more practice, there is a long 6-1, 6-2 review where the questions are mixed up and there's solutions. And I've got video solutions of a ton of them because we used to require students to do that handout. But all that's on the website. So if you need extra practice, it is there. Just make sure you use it if you need to.